Hello, hello. So, setbacks and defeats. We're going to talk about that today. What do you do to bring yourself back even better than before on the next Love My Body, Love Myself? So, stay tuned. Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Love My Body, Love Myself. I am your host, Alicia Curry. I am so glad you joined us today because we're going to have an amazing show today. And we're going to talk a little bit about setbacks and defeats, life transformations. How do you transform yourself? If you're in that second act of life, what do we do to love our bodies and love ourselves? So, this is going to be a good one. So, I would encourage you to, share this out with a friend or grab someone and say, hey, sit down and watch this with me. This is going to be fabulous. Yay, great Wednesday. Thank you, Reginald. It is Wednesday and it is Love My Body, Love Myself. So I want to just welcome all of you who are watching on the various platforms that we're streaming on today. So Facebook, hi, hello. If you're commenting from any of our Facebook groups, I would love for you to tag your name at the end of the comment because Facebook does hide, for privacy reasons, hide your identity from the live stream. So just tag at the end of the name if you want us to know who you are, so I can acknowledge you. If you're watching on LinkedIn, hello, thank you for joining us. Also, you can leave a comment. And if you're on YouTube, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button on YouTube and also the notification bell. So when we go live with any of our shows, you don't miss it. For those of you who are not on the YouTube platform, you can go to our YouTube. It's youtube.com/c/Alicia Curry after the show and hit that subscribe button, and we would truly appreciate it. I also want to say hi to our friends over in Twitch. If you're watching me on Twitch, thank you so much for tuning in. I mentioned Facebook groups earlier. So we have a Facebook group. It's called Love My Body, Love Myself. And it's facebook.com/groups/LMBLM. And I'm going to, in the second half of this year, start doing some promotions in there that you can win some stuff. So I would encourage you to join the group because I am going to be doing some stuff in that group coming later on this year. I do want to share that the Love My Body, Love Myself show is sponsored by FAMU Mary. So let's take a quick listen to FAMU Mary, educate, learn, and share.
FAMU's Mary, educate, learn, talk.
Yes, that's FAMU Mary. So it's all about the proper use of medical marijuana. So if you want to know more, you can go to their site, and it is mmeri.famu.edu. So mary.famu.edu. So the Love My Body, Love Myself show is also sponsored by Alicia Curry Inc. and is produced by Red Carpet CEO. If you want to be a guest or you want to sponsor a show, head on over to our email and send us a note, support@aliciacurry.com. Let us know you want to be a guest. Let us know if you want to support us in some way, and we will be happy to reach back out to you. Now, I am so thrilled to have my next guest come up on to stage here with me. And let me tell you a little bit about Christine. So Christine Catoggio, and you will correct me if I said that incorrectly, Christine. She says that she grew up as the proverbial good girl. She followed all the rules and always did what was expected of her. How many of us have been there? She said that it took a series of life's defeats and ongoing self-reflection and introspection to learn the essence of who she truly is and appreciate and values herself. She's also a certified transformation coach, and her key role is to facilitate growth and change by empowering men and women in all stages of life to accomplish the goals they desire for their life and to live to their fullest potential. Now you know why I'm so excited to bring her on, because that's what I love to do so much too. Help people live to their fullest potential. So welcome, Christine.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. You know, the proverbial good girl. I know that. I know that space. So tell me, how did that manifest you? What was that like?
Oh, well, I always did everything I was told to do. I never got into trouble, and I always did what was expected of me. So even when things did not feel right for me, or I wanted to do something different, if it was different than what was expected of me, out of the norm, then it was always poo-pooed. It was always poo-pooed and made me feel like, no, you can't do that. You can't go that route. You need to do things the way, we're used to you doing things.
And so let me ask you, let me stop you for a second. Was that self-talk, or was that people actually telling you that?
Well, interesting you should ask that, because as I learned later on, a lot of it was self-talk. It was me trying to do everything in a way that was pleasing to my parents, and not just my parents. I mean, I did it through life, making everyone else happy and satisfying everyone else at my own expense. So a lot of times it rang true to the point where I started resenting certain things, because I really felt that I wasn't in alignment. And of course, it took me years later to figure that out. Right. But I wasn't in alignment, with what my soul was telling me to do. And it wasn't anything bad or sleazy. It was just being able to step out on my own and have my own mindset about things that I wanted to do, whether it was a choice of career, job, spouse. It was always what was expected. So it was challenging, but I like that you hit on that point, because at the time I thought I was just being a good girl. And, I had no reason, here I was in an Italian Catholic family. I mean, you don't step out of the box, you just follow the rules.
The guilt is crazy.
Oh, it's very crazy.
So this, it makes me want to ask you, what do you think, what was the example that made you feel like you had to stay in line? Was there something that was said throughout your childhood about being a good girl, or good girls don't do this and good girls don't do that, like this constant repetition of what good girls do and don't do, that made you feel that way?
Yeah, there was a lot of that. And it was also my father was a very strong presence. And he was one, you just don't step out of line. You just, do what you're told to do. And I was daddy's little girl, so I didn't want to disappoint him. So it didn't seem to matter. I would jump through hoops for him.
Of course.
And to keep him happy, and at my expense. But there again, I didn't think of it as at my expense. I thought I was just doing what I was supposed to do to keep everybody happy and content. And, life was merry until daddy got mad.
You don't want to make daddy mad.
You don't want to make daddy mad. He was a retired police officer too. So, that's an idea of the kind of presence he had.
Blue blood. He was a blue blood.
He was a blue blood, yep.
So when did the light bulb kind of start flickering for you to say, this is not making me happy?
There was a couple of things, and I think probably the first real aha was when I went to college. And my parents started, we weren't raised poor, but we were not, we weren't super rich. And my parents really went through, a struggle to put my brother and I through college.
You were middle class. You were the middle class.
Uh-huh. And, they would have sold the farm to send my brother to college. But when it came time for me to go, they kept finding all the reasons why I shouldn't. What was I going to do with my life, and what was I going to learn in college? I already had a great job. I started when I was like 16 as a dental assistant. You can just continue in that field and you'll have a great living. And then it started with a boy that I was dating, and different things about, I don't think he's right for you, and blah 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 blah, and it had me second guessing my relationship with him. And it just seemed to follow. But then again, like we said, it didn't really come to light until years later. I had a long marriage and a very good marriage, raised two beautiful daughters. And throughout my marriage, I found I was doing the same thing. And so when I was having issues in my marriage and I wanted to get divorced, my parents were convincing me that, you can't get divorced. You're not supposed to do that. They were kind of taking my husband's side about things. And there were some major things that had happened that, I was like, well, how come they're not supporting me? And how come they're not understanding what I'm going through? But, typical, the male was the one who was respected and carried the weight of the family. And I was supposed to be the dutiful wife. So I think that was really the big aha. And it was years later. But, when I look back, I see all the times I sacrificed my soul, because indirectly, I think I gave up a lot of things because I made concessions that if I had it to do over again, I might do differently. But I wasn't strong-willed enough to stand up to that.
And you were under the belief that you were doing the right thing.
Right.
Even though it was making you unhappy, you still believed this is what I'm supposed to do. So I just have to grit my teeth and bear it. I just have to suck it up. Yep. What's wrong with me? Why can't I just suck it up and do this?
That's exactly it. That's exactly. And it wasn't until I finally did go through with my divorce and I was finally able to stand up on my own and take charge of my own life. And that's when, the big light bulbs went off. I think it was more than light bulbs. I think it was like fireworks.
Fireworks. Oh my God. What has been happening to me this whole time? You know what I love, Christine? I love that we both showed up in the same color today.
Yeah, vibrant.
So you had these fireworks moments going on. I want to come back and talk about that a little bit. So I'm going to take a quick break and we're going to talk about the fireworks moments that you had after, you've started gaining your freedom and taking charge of your own life. Let's come back and talk about that. That's exciting.
Okay.
Are you curious about marijuana? Florida A&M University established the Medical Marijuana Education and Research Initiative, also known as MARY, to educate the public about medical marijuana use as well as the detrimental health and social impacts of unlawful marijuana use on local communities. Empower yourself with knowledge. Find out more at mmeri.famu.edu. mmeri.famu.edu. MARY. Educate, learn, talk.
The Love My Body, Love Myself show is sponsored by Alicia Curry Inc. and produced by Red Carpet CEO. Alicia Curry Inc. specializes in developing audaciously proactive leaders and teams using brain science and people data to get results. Visit our website, aliciacurry.com, for more information. The show is produced by Red Carpet CEO. If you'd like a copy of Age with Audacious Confidence, visit our link tree at linktr.ee/ A. Khoury. Let's get back to the show. Well, welcome back to Love My Body, Love Myself. I'm your host, Alicia Khoury, and my guest today is Christine Catoggio. I hope I'm saying that right. I said it before. She did not correct me, so I may be saying it right. So, we're talking about being the good girl and doing what you're supposed to do, doing what you're told, but not finding true happiness in that, and not even realizing what that is. Please share this out, comment, let us know what your feelings are. Let us know what you think. I know I saw a hey, hello from T Chapel. Hi, good evening, T Chapel. And of course, Reginald said, great Wednesday. Thank you, Reginald. Appreciate it. So let's get back to our interview with Christine. Hey, Christine.
Hi.
Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So now, we left off talking about the fireworks, and you're now in command of your own life. I'm sure many women have experienced that when they finally start taking control of their own life. It's like, what have I been doing my whole life? What is this? So what were some of those ahas that you kind of, because in your in the piece I read at the beginning, you said, a lot of deep introspection and a lot of self-reflection. What were some of those ahas that you came to realize?
As I'm listening to you speak, I keep thinking of that song. I think it was at Gloria Gaynor. At first, I was afraid. I was petrified.
I couldn't live without you by my side.
I remember talking to a friend of mine and saying, I don't know how I'm ever going to do this alone. And if she's listening, I hope she remembers that she said this to me. And her response was, you don't realize you've been doing it all alone all this time. So I was really the strong one in carrying the weight of holding the family together. And because, I wanted everything perfect. Yeah, whether it was, my house, my cooking, whatever it was, the way my kids were dressed, that was the lifestyle that I understood I was supposed to maintain. What was it, June Cleaver kind of thing I grew up with. You're a little younger than me, but we grew up with that mentality. And so to break free from that was, I felt like the rebel. I felt like the real rebel. I wasn't supposed to get divorced. I wasn't supposed to, do anything different.
Italian Catholic, you don't get divorced.
Oh gosh, no. And I'll be honest, I was married 32 years and divorce was never in my vocabulary. And it had just gotten to the point where I honestly felt, and I hate to sound sacrilegious, but I actually felt like God was pushing me towards it, like almost as if I kept getting the urge that I was meant to be more. I was meant to do something more. And that was really a lot of my motivation. Was I felt supported in a strange kind of spiritual way that, I was meant to step out and not just be and do what I was doing. And so
we're not, what do you call it? What is the word I'm looking for, Christine? We're not encouraging divorce, but, like you were saying, you were feeling pulled to something so much more, something greater, and you couldn't keep ignoring it because it kept pulling you. And that's powerful.
Yeah, it was very powerful because I was always looking into new things, new ideas, always learning. I was into continuous learning. I went back to get my college degree at 47 years old while my two girls were in high school because I wanted them to have that example that they could do it too. And there again, I didn't get the support of my family or my spouse because it wasn't something that they felt I needed to do. So everything that I did for myself was a challenge because I was always fighting the system. And it got to the point where that started giving me more momentum. It was driving me to pursue more and to do more because I needed to prove myself. I felt that I needed to prove that I could do this. Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I can't do it. And so I started getting more and more courageous about stepping out. And a lot of it was me really taking the time to figure me out. Because up until this point, I realized I didn't know who I was. I was who everyone else told me to be. And so I started doing a lot of work on myself. I did a lot of reflection and a lot of self-study and a lot of time meditating and contemplating what I really wanted for my life and who I really was. And I realized that some of my values and priorities were not being true to me. They were, there again, according to the plan I was supposed to follow. You know, it was like, I always say, you know, back then life was scripted. You know, you went to school, you got married, you had kids, and then that was, you know, the happy life. And I did that. And I felt like, now what? Now what's next? There's got to be more.
Yeah,
And,
I totally understand. Let me ask you something, Christine. Do you have headphones or anything like that? Because we're getting a really bad feedback. I'm not sure if it's you. I've tried changing my microphone a couple times, but I'm still hearing it.
They're upstairs. If you don't mind taking a break.
If not, we'll keep going. But I didn't mean to cut you off because you were going down a really good path. I just wanted to see because
that's okay. Maybe if I sit back a little.
Okay, I think that sounds better. I changed my microphone. I think that sounds better. Thank you so much. So,
all right, it might have been too close. Okay.
So you're saying all the self-reflection, everything, you started to see another path for yourself. So continue.
Okay. So I did actually, I did a lot of things for myself. I mean, I took all kinds of classes. I did all kinds of programs and things that would nurture my soul. I started doing more of the things that I enjoyed doing. You know, when you're in a relationship, and it's usually a case of you sacrifice a lot of what you want to do and your values for the sake of the relationship, or, you know, the family in my case as well. And I realized that so much of my soul I had sacrificed. And it was really a question of me getting back to who I was at my core essence. And that's actually how I got into doing the transformation work, is because I realized there's so many women who don't even know what their core essence is because they've given it up for so long.
Preach it, sister. Preach it. I know. Terry says, you know, great conversation. So often a small voice is calling us to be bigger if we only listen. It's so true, Terry. So true.
Yes, that is totally true. And there again, it was me taking the time to listen and having the opportunity to listen, because I didn't have someone else in my ear telling me I couldn't do something.
Or what you're supposed to do, or who you're supposed to be.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, it was an interesting aha too. And once my dad passed, and of course my mom and I were always close, but once my dad passed, I realized my mother was coming out of her shell a little bit. And she was my biggest cheerleader, because I think all along she wanted to let me fly, but she went along with what my father said. And so I realized a lot of that was the generation and the upbringing. But
Because
it
we
was
were brought up with tradition.
yes,
We were brought up with
totally.
tradition, and we had to follow the tradition and don't deviate.
Exactly, exactly. So it was really interesting, now that my dad wasn't there to fill her head. Uh, she was such a strong supporter of mine, and you know, which really warmed my heart because it kind of gave me validation that I did the right thing. Because all along, of course I second guessed myself, like, who am I? And like we all do, we all have those monkeys in our head, telling us what we should and shouldn't do, angel on one shoulder, devil on the other. And, but the validation that she gave me really helped me soar. It really did help me soar. And because all along I knew that I was meant for more. I was meant to be out there and help people and be a speaker and, follow my own path.
Yes.
Yes.
I love it. So Reginald said yes. I would add listen and trust the voice. Yes. And
Yes.
T. Chappelle said good point. So yes, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for engaging in the conversation, everybody. I love it.
Thank you. Yes.
So you discovered, holy moly, I have shut myself down and I have to find myself again. And there are thousands of women out there who are in the same situation that I was in. And now I need to help them because I've kind of uncovered the secret. I've kind of uncovered what it is that was missing in my life. And I can possibly help someone else walk through that themselves. So that's when you started coaching other women. So share with me just a couple of the steps. So let's say I'm a woman, I am a woman, but years and years in this kind of shell, not really understanding myself, because this show is called Love My Body, Love Myself. So I really don't understand myself, but I know I don't have self-love because I'm not getting to do or be who I was designed or meant to be. What are some of the first steps that I should be thinking of to pull myself out of that?
One of the first places to start is really doing, I like to call it a value reboot. Because as I mentioned, sometimes when we're in that situation or whatever it might be, we sacrifice our values and we sacrifice parts of ourselves. We give up that part of ourselves that we don't even realize that we do. And so to do a value reboot is really going down the list of what's really important to you. Because when you can identify what's really important to you, then you start to notice the things that you've been accepting that don't align.
Yes.
And so
let me just say, Tracy, I got you. It's Tracy Chappell. So thank you, Tracy. So the thing is, a lot of times, especially in a couple or a long-term marriage, like you were saying, we've adopted other people's values. We've adopted kind of this couple value. And you haven't really taken the time to say, is this really my value? Or is this someone else? Is this my parents? Is this, like my teachers? Is this my spouse? What do I really believe about this value? And sometimes that is a hard kind of process to go through.
It's a hard process, but it's a good process because it does get you thinking. It gets you thinking, and of course, I have methods that I use, but it gets you thinking about every area of your life. What have I been sacrificing? What is not feeling right? It's what I remember as kids. We used to tell our kids, whenever you get that feeling, listen to it. But when we get to be adults, we don't listen to that feeling. So, it's really a case of you go through the values list and you're like, and you start to get those feelings again. And it really does wake up your sense of self. and what you've sacrificed and what you've given up. And when you start to recognize that, then you can refine your life, because it's really starting to notice about what's working in your life and what's not working. Because
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
But one of the things I also find helpful is, what do I believe? What do I really believe about this? That's another
Yes.
question that I ask. What do I believe about this thing that I've been doing all these years, and just following the lead and just doing it? What do I really believe about this? Do I have an opinion? Does anybody care that I have an opinion about it?
Yeah, exactly. Has anybody been listening to my opinions? Oh, how did I introduce the real me to my family and friends, abruptly or gradually? Well, if you ask my family, it was kind of abruptly, but it really was gradual. Well, because they weren't noticing the subtle changes, the things that I was doing for myself. And yes, it was more confident because I was regaining my self-respect and my self-confidence. And that's, when you start to realize the value that you bring to any situation, to yourself, the value that you have as a person, and you respect yourself for it, everything changes. Everything changes.
I love that. Or were there people in your family or in your life that you kind of stepped away from while you were going through this process because you knew they wouldn't understand it?
Yeah, there were. And then there were some toxic people that I avoided because, you don't need the toxicity. Especially, when you're going through it, it's not a straight line. It's you're up and down, and that shouldn't I, and so you don't need to have that chatter, whether it be in your head or from someone else. So you really need to eliminate the naysayers. You just really need to, and if you can't eliminate them, shut them out. Just shut them out. I remember sometimes when my dad used to say things to my mother, and she wouldn't respond. And I'm like, did you hear what he said? And she said, yeah, but I have the advantage of being older. I said, and what is that? And she says, selective hearing. So, so you know what? You learn to have selective hearing. You only listen to what you really want to listen to. And sometimes it could be it's just what you want to hear, and which every once in a while you probably do need to pay attention to what someone else says. I mean, there might be something that you need to use, or if they tell you, don't stop at the stop sign, you need to, listen to yourself. But if they tell you to stop and you didn't know there was a stop sign, you better stop. So
Right, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about the feelings and the emotions because you said, it's not a straight line, it's up and down. You have those good days and those not so good days. What were the emotions around, like, when you didn't have those good days, when you were second guessing yourself or feeling like, did I make the right decision? What were the emotions around that?
There was a lot of highs and lows, a lot of tears, and a lot of prayer, because there again, just listening for the answers, because emotionally it's taxing. It's exhausting, because you're challenged. You're challenging yourself, but you're challenged. Am I doing the right thing? Should I? Shouldn't I? And it wears you out. It really wears you out. And so that's where the self-care is so important, because you really do, and it's the massages and the facials, but not that kind of self-care. The self-care is really, there again, valuing yourself and learning to appreciate who you are and what you bring to the table. And I think, for so many of us, that's probably one of the biggest things that we sacrifice is our sense of self. And so when we can regain that and start to figure out who we are, and even though it might be, there's growing pains, it's like everything else, there's growing pains, and there was many times where I related myself to the butterfly. I used to walk around and say, okay, I'm just in the chrysalis. I'm just in the chrysalis. I'm just in the chrysalis. I'm getting ready to fly. I'm getting ready to fly. And I kept reminding myself of that because, yes, there's those icky, squirmy days where you just want to get out of your body because you're not sure if this is where you're supposed to be.
So why I ask that question is, if someone is going through this and you're alone, it's important to reach out to someone. It's important to have a coach, a mentor, even just a best friend who's really on your side, so you don't stay in those valleys by yourself alone, because that could be a dangerous thing to do. And so I do want to share your contact information. So if you want to get in touch with Christine, her Facebook is Midlife Redesign Mentor. And her Instagram is the same thing, except between the words, there's an underscore. So it's at midlife_redesign_mentor. So don't walk this journey alone. Get you someone that you can buddy up with, that when you're in those lows and it gets really low, you need someone to talk to. And then Tracy said that she has found attempting to show differences in her behavior is challenging because family likes to remind you of who you were rather than celebrating who you're becoming. And that could be the case sometimes too. It's so true, Tracy.
Exactly. Very true. Very true. And I've learned that is more about them than about you. And that's why you have to stand strong in that, because they are afraid of who you're becoming because they don't know that person. Mm-hmm. And they want you to stay in their comfort zone so that they don't have to change.
Absolutely.
That's really, where it comes from. And you don't need to be in somebody's face for them to see the changes. I mean, sometimes it's just subtle. Like we said, it might be, spending less time with somebody because of, their toxicity or whatever it might be. And so sometimes it's just that a step at a time. It's all baby steps. It's all baby steps. None of it happens overnight. It's, it's painful moments of growing. It's really growing pains.
Yeah.
And, we went through them as kids. We had pains in our legs and, it just seemed perfectly normal that we should have growing pains. Well, guess what? We're going to have growing pains when we're making those other changes about our emotional self and about and sometimes in many cases, it's a health regimen, that somebody may say, oh, what are you doing that for? And they just have defeatist attitudes like, oh, that's never going to work. Or, there's always the naysayers. And that's why you have to build up your own strength in so many ways and understand that you are your own person. And that
I say with your sovereignty, you make your own decisions. You don't need anybody else's input to make a decision.
Yes.
And, this is where what you're talking about, this is where self-love and self-care becomes very important. And it's not selfish. It becomes important to take care of yourself and say, you know what, at this moment, this is not what I need in my life. And I need to, kind of cocoon yourself and say, I need to shut some of this out because it's just going to take me down and I can't afford to do that. So find your happy place. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, seriously, you do. And sometimes that's just being a homebody and being settled in and making yourself a really nice dinner and enjoying your own company. Put on some nice music and enjoy your own company. And I think too often we don't appreciate our own company. We're always looking for somebody to do things with. And we're our own best company. So, and you can do whatever you feel like doing. If you feel like reading or listening to music or having hamburger or filet mignon, I mean, it's all up to you. So,
and if you're not your own best company, something's wrong. You need to figure out why, because that's a different set of values that you've adopted that you don't value your own company. You don't value yourself. I always used to say that I love me. I love everything about me. There are some things about me I don't like, but I'm not ready to change those things. So I just have to love it and keep moving forward. So if you can't say that I love me, yeah, there's some things I do that I don't like, but I love me, then you have to find a way to get to that place where you really truly love yourself and work on the stuff you don't like.
Exactly. That's exactly it. We can all make changes in our life. No matter what it is, we can change so many things. I mean, we can change our appearance. We can change, we can change our mental attitude. I mean, that's really where all the change starts. It starts with our mindset. Mm-hmm. And it's convincing ourselves that we are worthy and that we can, we do value ourselves and we do have value to offer to others. And so, when we believe in ourselves and we have that confidence and self-respect, the rest becomes easier because we don't allow the junk to flow in. I used to tell my kids when they were little and I wouldn't let them watch something on TV. I said, I don't feed you junk. You're not watching junk, so so we have to stop putting the junk in our bodies.
Exactly. I had my middle daughter say to me, she's like, now I know why there were some shows that you did not let us watch when we were younger. Even though we didn't understand it and we didn't like that you said no, that we couldn't watch it. Now that I look back at those shows, I'm like, yeah, we didn't need to put that stuff in our heads back then.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you can sometimes see, they're too young to discern, so they don't see those things. So we need to treat ourselves as we're coming out of this and developing and growing like that. Like we don't always, that fragile part of ourselves doesn't always see the really great things. So we have to keep feeding it really good things until it can blossom and start feeling
100%. And I love the word that you use, discern. I think when we have that discernment about what we allow in our lives, then it really changes the picture.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oh, Christine, I love this conversation. So share with everyone again how they can, I didn't get your website. So if you want to give them your website, you can tell them. I'm going to share your Facebook and Instagram, and you can talk about your website.
Okay. My website actually is a little bit different. It's actually my business website, but it is successfullifetransitions.com. And because it is all about transitions, then there again, once you learn to embrace change, the rest becomes easier because everything is all about change. Nothing stays static. So successfullifetransitions.com.
So you work primarily, well, you said men or women, but those who are more mature or anyone in a transition state?
Well, I actually started years ago with any woman in transition because as we go through, there's so many transitions. Right now I am, and because I am in that age bracket, I am leaning more towards people who are going through some type of retirement or career transition or older in life and just trying to figure out what they're going to do with the rest of their life. So there's no age limit on it. Transition is a transition. Change is, happens to all of us. and for so many reasons. And so at any stage of life, having someone to help you navigate that transition, it really is so essential, because as Alicia said, we can't navigate those type of things alone.
We shouldn't.
Yeah.
So thank you, Christine. Don't go anywhere. Stay in the green room. I'm just going to close out the show, but I want to keep talking to you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much for being a guest on the show. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Thank you.
So Christine Catoggio, if you want to, just drop her a line, say hi, connect with her. Go connect with her. Her Facebook is Midlife Redesign Mentor, and IG at midlife_redesign_mentor. So go connect with her, give her a follow, show her some social media love. This was a great conversation. And just one last time, I want to remind you about FAMU Mary. So don't go anywhere. Let me just play this quick little clip for you, and I'll be right back.
Florida A&M University established Mary to educate diverse communities about lawful and unlawful use of marijuana, as well as the social impacts and potential consequences to health and well-being in local communities. Knowledge is power. FAMU's Medical Marijuana Education and Research Initiative. Learn more at mmeri.famu.edu. Follow Mary on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That's MMERI. Mary, educate, learn, talk.
Thank you so much for joining me today on, thank you, Reginald, on Love My Body, Love Myself. This show is all about finding the tips, the tools, the techniques to help us navigate this life more successfully, so that we can be all that we can be, and we can do it while loving our bodies and loving ourselves, especially through the transitions, as Christine talked about, the transitions in life. As women, as we transition through life, people expect our bodies to still look like we're 20 and 25 years old, but that does not happen. So we have to learn to love our bodies as it transitions into different stages of life, and also to love ourselves. So I am going to encourage you to do something this week that proves to yourself that you love your body and that you love yourself. And I will see you next time on another amazing episode. We got a great one coming up for you next week of Love My Body, Love Myself. Mwah, 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 mwah. Love you guys. See you next time. Thank you.